Hello there, very good evening and welcome to your Primetime News Bulletin. I'm Shane Silva.
And I'm Jitendra Gulasena. Let's start off with a look at the headlines.
One person dead in shootout between STF and criminal gang in Devulapitia. President promises solution to Saitam issue in 2 days. Minister Sajid Premadasa says poverty statistics are flawed. Elections Commission states Gazette on councillors must be published this month if local government polls in January. Newsfirst captures emotional Skype meeting between Sri Lanka-born British national Sherry Atchison and birth mother. Shinzo Abe secures strong mandate in Japan's general election.
On your top story tonight, one person was killed in a shootout between a gang of thieves and the police special task force in Devulapitia.
The shootout occurred at about 1:15 this afternoon on the Balagana Dunugaha Road in Henpitikethara, Devulapitia. The police STF personnel had conducted a raid in the area after receiving a tip-off regarding a criminal gang. Gunshots were fired when the STF personnel attempted to stop a suspicious white van on the road. While 9 suspects had been travelling in the van, 2 of them were injured when the police STF opened fire. The Devulapitia police noted that one of the suspects was killed on the spot while the other had fled. The suspect who fled had later been admitted to the Minuwangoda District Hospital. The police STF noted that the other 7 suspects, including a former Pradeshiya Sabha member, are in custody. Police seized a hand grenade and 3 firearms that were in the suspect's possession.
Today, President Maithripala Sirisena proclaimed that the government would announce a final decision on the private medical college in Malabe in the coming days.
Last week I said that the government's final decision with regard to the Saitam issue that has caught the attention of a lot of people will be announced this week. All the parties involved in this issue convened a meeting this afternoon as well. We are hoping to announce the government's stance in this regard within the next 2 to 3 days of this week. As a government, we hope to solve various issues and overcome challenges that are created in the country by discussing the issues, sharing and collecting information. President Sirisena expressed these views at the ceremonial unveiling of the Ranbatta or goal fence constructed around the boatry at the Sri Abhinavarama Vihare in Kamburapula, Dehiyovita. The President also unveiled the freshly sculpted statue of the Lord Buddha at the Vihara Mandira.
Sources close to the Presidential Commission have said that Prime Minister Ranil Wickremesinghe has responded to the questionnaire sent to him. Earlier, the chairman of the Commission stated if the Commission needs a further clarification from the Prime Minister, they would summon him to the Commission. If the President does not grant an extension to the Commission, its tenure will end on Friday.
Undoubtedly he must come because his name transferred not from at the very end, but from the very beginning, from the time he appointed those to his own committee. There have been many suspicious questions asked against the Prime Minister, and he has a duty in his own interest to maintain his image. He should come and give answers. Now,
the Attorney General's department had said that there is a list of 20 other potential witnesses who need to testify before the Presidential Commission. We cannot produce a half-baked cake. I believe the remaining 20 witnesses must be summoned and the President must extend the tenure by a few weeks or a month. We request all witnesses be summoned. The Prime Minister said he is willing to testify before the Commission. We believe he will be summoned and evidence will be recorded. The Prime Minister openly said he is willing to come before the Commission and testify. by. It's like closing the stable after the horse has fled. In the final testimony of the personal assistant to Arjuna Aloysius, extracted text messages have revealed many names. One relates to the Honourable Prime Minister. There is only one Honourable Prime Minister in the country, but that Honourable Prime Minister has become dishonourable. All those in the United National Party, from the leadership to the chairman to the secretary and below, have exposed themselves. Therefore, we make one request from the government and the president. After the commission concludes recording evidence, this matter must not end. The process of imposing punishments must be expedited. If the rogue is the Honourable Prime Minister or a common man, the law must be enforced against that rogue. A group including former President Mahinda Rajapaksa held a closed-door meeting at a hotel in Mount Lavinia last night.
Security had been stepped up at the premises for the duration of the clandestine meeting.
No, the event was done by the Bhikkhu in Japan. Some scholarships were presented. We are opposed to the constitution. The government must act in line with what the Mahasangha has said. President Mahinda Rajapaksa, Chamal Rajapaksa, Minister Soisa, Dayaratnayaka and several others were in attendance. We exchanged ideas. There was no discussion. There was no special discussion. It was in the open. There were no special matters to discuss with him. We are engaged in two separate political movements. He asked me about the constitution. At one point he said that I am the one who scolds him the most, so he would sit close to me. He sat next to me and I laughed. There was nothing else of note.
Sri Lanka's poor run in one-day internationals went from bad to worse as they were comprehensively beaten by Pakistan in the fifth and final ODI by 9 wickets in Sharjah today. The final series defeat to Pakistan is Sri Lanka's second consecutive ODI whitewash after having been beaten by India previously.
Well, on behalf of the News First editorial, we need to highlight some key issues regarding the state of the cricket in the country. As you are aware, Sri Lankan cricket has suffered some major setbacks over the past few months. Sri Lanka cricket was at one point the brand that took Sri Lanka out into the world. People in Sri Lanka as well as sports enthusiasts around the world have been saddened by the state of Sri Lankan cricket. Selection committees have changed, its chairpersons resigned, team leaders have changed around 6 or 7 times in recent memory. Some coaches left the country, while others objected to travel to certain countries. However, there has been one constant, that is the current chairman of Sri Lanka Cricket and its executive committee. Well, we don't blame the players, but who is responsible for the current state of cricket? We need to deliver a special message to a person responsible. Tilanga Sumutipala, chairman of Sri Lanka Cricket. Mr. Sumutipala, we have no personal issues with you. However, the general public, like you, love Sri Lanka cricket. Please take family politics away from cricket. Let professionals handle the sport. We call on the Honourable President to ensure the separation of cricket and family politics, ensure that professionals are in charge of the sport. Please make cricket in Sri Lanka great once again. Well, that's the message from the editorial.
Back to the main desk.
Through old pictures provided to News First, we were able to locate the biological mother of Sri Lankan-born British national Sherry Atchison. However, this can only be confirmed through a DNA test. While these tests are being conducted, we were able to capture the heartwarming moment when Sherry saw the woman believed to be her mother for the very first time. Based on a request extended by the family, News First continues to keep the woman's identity anonymous.
You say hi,
As well.
Hi.
Wow.
She's asking whether you recognize her.
I have the same teeth under your eyes. On your nose. Oh my goodness. How are you?
Shall I show you your sister also?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, she's crying for the happiness.
Oh, that's lovely. Oh, can it,
She's saying that she's fine and she's asking whether how you are doing.
I am good. I'm very happy.
Yeah, yeah.
Sure. I hope I can meet you soon.
We are in the Lanka. And they're happy to see you and they're asking you to come to Sri Lanka.
So,
your sister's husband also there?
oh, is he? Hi, Vlad. Hi. I'm looking forward to meeting you too. This is my husband. Over here.
Yeah.
This is my husband.
Yeah.
Oh, the husband.
She's asking you to come as soon as possible. All of them are asking you to come as soon as possible.
I think we're
so
going.
You can book your flight.
I'm going to make my flights today. We will be out on the 13th, hopefully. So too.
Yeah, she would like to see you today.
Oh. Yeah, so would I.
You can get the certificate. Your nephew.
My nephew, you know. I have a nephew. Oh wow, I can't wait to see.
She's asking whether you're upset with her, whether you're angry or something.
No, not at all. I'm very excited and I 100% understand.
She was afraid, they were afraid that you must be feeling upset or
No,
something.
no, definitely not. Please let her know that I understand and I'm just glad I found her now.
Minister of Housing and Construction Sajith Premadasa commented on the recently published poverty statistics in the country.
Politicians are very talented in creating statistics that benefit them and presenting it to the nation. The Statistics Bureau states that the percentage of people in poverty is around 6.7%. I can state clearly that this is an incorrect figure. When you go around the country, you can see a hidden poverty that has escaped the eyes of the people who create these statistics. Many politicians also miss the poverty of the people. When you go inside villages, there are people who suffer greatly due to poverty, but it is being overlooked by many. They can say very easily that they have reduced poverty by this percentage in 10 years. We have given this many benefits. Whatever they say, there is a high percentage of people who are suffering from a hidden poverty. The sweat, blood and tears of these people have been missed by the state officials, the people who create these statistics and the politicians who present these statistics. They have failed to identify these people suffering due to poverty. The Gram Shakti program aims to save these people from poverty.
දුප්පත්කමින් මුදවන්නට අපි දැවැන්ත වැඩසටහනක් ක්‍රියාත්මක කරනවා.
The foundation stone for the Udagamana program in the Udukandara Thissamarama area was laid today under the auspices of Minister Sajith Premadasa. The project will benefit 27 families and will be built at a cost of 25.5 million rupees.
Minister Sajith Premadasa claims that statistics regarding poverty levels in Sri Lanka are false in such a backdrop. On average, the cost of wages, allowances and other benefits for local government bodies amounts to 90 million rupees monthly or 1.08 billion rupees a year. Local government authorities have a term of 4 years.
A statement made yesterday by MP Vimal Veeravansa, the leader of the National Freedom Front, drew irate responses in the political arena today.
A draft constitution that will destroy whatever reconciliation that is left is what is being discussed before us today. If it receives a two-thirds majority in parliament, then there is no point to this parliament. We need to stop 76 members from raising their hands for it. Failing which, the next day we will have to drop a bomb on parliament and end it. It was Vimal Veeravansa's wife's brother who first dropped bombs on parliament in 1989. Now his brother-in-law is going to bomb parliament in 2017. If the brothers-in-law are going to bomb parliament, then we request Vimal Veeravansa to wait until the joint opposition members are inside to bomb it. Then all of the rogues whom the country have had enough of will be flattened with one bomb attack.
And now let's take a look at cartoonist Asanka Laduhetti's take on today's news.
The Elections Commission has stated that local government elections can be held in January only if the number of representatives to be elected to the local government authorities is gazetted by the 31st of October. We hope that the minister in charge of the subject of local government will publish the gazette on the number of representatives by the end of this month. If it is published, then we will certainly be able to hold elections in January. We have already undertaken preliminary preparations to hold local government elections. The Elections Commission and the district secretaries are finalizing the preliminary tasks. The electoral register was certified on the 12th, so the local government elections will be held under the 2017 electoral register.
The movement to protect the rights of political prisoners protested opposite the Ministry of Justice today.
The protest was against a case filed at the Vavuniya High Court being moved to the Anuradhapura High Court. A person who had his face completely covered also took part in the protest. A heated situation arose when the police attempted to ascertain the identity of this individual. 6 protesters were permitted to meet with an official from the Ministry of Justice and discuss the issue. Thereafter, the group dispersed.
Safari drivers at the Yala National Park staged a demonstration opposite its entrance this morning. The demonstration was staged in protest against the limitations imposed on the number of safari jeeps entering the park.
The situation escalated when a safari guide attempted to enter the park with a group of tourists.
Explain me the problem. Explain me the problem. I'm a tourist. I would like to go inside the park to see animals, and I see that. What is the problem? Explain to me something.
The protesters thereafter arrived to the Tissamarama town in a vehicular procession where they continued their demonstration. Traders in the town closed up their shops in support. The protesters dispersed following the arrival of the Tissamaram OIC, who assured that a discussion would be provided with the relevant sectors. The Yala National Park remained closed for the past 2 months due to the drought. The park was initially to be closed from the 1st of September to the 1st of November, but was reopened today following a discussion at the Prime Minister's office. The new regulations imposed by the Ministry of Sustainable Development and Wildlife restricts the number of vehicles entering the park per day to 450, with 150 vehicles allowed to enter for a maximum of 4 hours at the given times.
UN Special Rapporteur on the promotion of truth, justice, reparations and guarantees of non-recurrence, Pablo de Grief, held a media briefing in Colombo today, concluding his visit to Sri Lanka.
As many other country experiences show, long delays between the acknowledgement of obligations to establish transitional justice measures and the fulfillment of these obligations involves some risks. It is usually the case that delays open up opportunities for the topic to become entangled in partisan politics, as it seems is happening in Sri Lanka. Transitional justice deals with questions of basic fundamental rights. Hence, it is not to be reduced to a matter of partisan political contestation. Second, in a highly polarized context, the absence of a comprehensive plan that includes provisions for the satisfaction of the rights to truth, justice, reparation, and guarantees of non-recurrence has left transitional justice as an easy target for attack. It has been narrowed to a discussion about one of its dimensions only, criminal accountability, and this topic further reduced to the question of the nationality of the judges in a future accountability mechanism. The third risk or cost is that the scope of Transitional Justice Project has been reduced to events around the end of the conflict, when in fact it should have a much broader sweep in a country with a long history of cycles of violence. And finally, the politicization of the topic in this context has also meant that it has been increasingly ethnicized. As a result, transitional justice is represented as if it were essentially a threat to the majority community, of interest to one of the minorities only, and all the other minority groups left somewhere in the margins.
The Socialist Alliance convened a media briefing in Colombo today. They are going to create 1 million new jobs. They say they are going to increase economic growth. Growth has slowed. Economic growth has slowed to 4.3%. Against this backdrop, he is promising that per capita income, which was about $4,000 in 2015, will be increased to $5,500. He says they will increase it to $12,000 by 2020. Through such tales, the Prime Minister of our country, who should act with responsibility, is deceiving the people of our country. It is his duty to give us a clear explanation on the state of the economy and present actionable and acceptable solutions.
මේ පිළිගන්න පුළුවන් පිළියම් ඉදිරිපත් කිරීම තමයි එතුමාගේ යුතුයකම. අගමැතිතුමාගේ සාවද්‍ය රැවටිලිකාර ප්‍රකාශ. එතුමා නොදැන මේවා කියනවා නෙවෙයිනේ.
The Prime Minister is not aware that his statements are false and misleading. In order to reach a per capita income of $5,000 by 2020, we will need an economic growth rate of 9.4%. Without telling us how he plans to reach an economic growth rate of 9.4%, the plan to increase per capita income to $5,000 is merely packaging the future. Future investment is currently at about $700 million. This is a very low figure. We cannot have a growth rate of 9% with such low investment. He is talking about future development on the basis of non-existent foreign investment.
Addressing a public gathering in Badula today, Minister S.P. Dissanayake spoke on the last presidential election campaign.
අපි අපේ සියලු ශක්තිය යොදවලා අපේ අපේක්ෂක මහින්ද රාජපක්ෂ මහත්මයාට වැඩ කරා. අපි සියලුම රූපවාහිනී නාලිකා අපේ අපට ගත්තා. සිරස අපට ගන්න බැරි වුණේ. අපි සියලුම රේඩියෝ නාලිකා අපි ගත්තා. සිරස විතරයි ගන්න බැරි වුණේ. අපිට අපි සියලු මුද්‍රිත පුවත්පත් වල අයිතිය ගත්තා. ගන්න බැරි ඒවා සල්ලි වලට ගත්තා. හැබැයි මේ සේරම කරලා ඉතිහාසයේ කිසිම මැතිවරණයකට නැති තරම් මුදලක් මේ මැතිවරණයට වැය කරලා මේ මැතිවරණය අපි කරනවා.
Commander of the Sri Lanka Air Force, Air Marshal Kapila Jayampathy, presided over a memorial event to remember fallen airmen at the temple of the Sacred Tooth Relic.
A religious event took place to commemorate the fallen airmen, and an almsgiving was held for the Mahasangha.
The Air Force must renew itself. A 3-decade-old war is over. Some of the aircraft that we used during that time cannot be used now. We need to replace them with better ones. So the Sri Lanka Air Force has made several technical requests to obtain aircraft that would meet the requirements of a modern Air Force. We also plan to work together with the Sri Lanka Navy. With our resources, we plan to protect our international maritime border. We believe other nations are exploiting our ocean resources. We need to put a stop to that. If anything illegal is attempting to enter the country, the Air Force and the Navy can work together to prevent that through reconnaissance. We hope to take a major step as the Air Force. We will step away from our usual maintenance and incorporate manufacturing technology to the existing sector and take over producing aircraft for the fleet.
A statue of the Lord Buddha was ceremonially placed within the new Buddha Mandira of the Lanka Jiviharaya in Japan yesterday. Venerable Banagalupati Sathera thanked everyone who supported this effort.
Venerable Banagalupati Sathera, the chairman of the Mahabodhi Society of Sri Lanka and the chief Sanghanayaka of Japan, presided over this religious event. The Buddha Mandira was constructed with the assistance of Sri Lankan-born businessman and philanthropist Samantha Pereira. The statue of Lord Buddha placed in the Buddha Mandira was sculpted under the sponsorship of the Capital Maharaja Organisation Limited.
Yesterday, this Buddha statue was officially unveiled under the stormy weather conditions. On behalf of the Lankaji temple, I wish to thank all Sri Lankans and Japanese nationals who supported this endeavour. Court granted permission to the Police Financial Crimes Division today to inspect files belonging to Yoshitha Rajapaksa at the Department of Inland Revenue. This followed a request made by the Police FCID to the Mount Lavinia Magistrates Court.
Attorneys representing Yoshitha Rajapaksa objected to the request. However, Mount Lavinia Chief Magistrate Mohammed Mihail, taking facts into consideration, granted permission. The order was issued when the case pertaining to the purchase of a land in Mihindu Mawatha, Mount Lavinia, was taken up before court this morning. First suspect to the case, Daisy Forrest, grandmother of Yoshitha Rajapaksa, was also present before court today. The case will be taken up again on the 29th of January.
Why do some IT professionals oppose the ETCA?
Stay tuned to TV1. Coming up next, Face the Nation, asking the questions you want answered with Professor Rohan Samrajiva, Lasantha Wickramasinghe and Eranda Ginige for a lively debate on the pros and cons of liberalising the IT sector in Sri Lanka.
Well, that's all the news we have for you for tonight. For the Newsfirst team, I'm Jithin Vigunasena.
And I'm Shreyan Silva. Take care and good night.